This was a fight conversation because I'm not
sorry.
open to that.
It's not.
I'll
it's not,
shut
Meri.
it down right now if
it's an accountability conversation that we agreed.
What was meant to be a calm family lunch turned into the moment that destroyed a dynasty off-camera nightmare that would haunt TLC forever and seal Kody Brown's fate once and for all. It began under a mild Arizona sun, a day arranged to look wholesome, controlled, safe. The garden had been dressed for serenity soft linens, arranged plates, filtered light, dancing through citrus branches. A small TLC crew arrived, only 3 of them, a sound tech, a cameraman, and an assistant producer. They were told it would be a simple lunch shoot with Robyn, Kody, and her children. A slice of family calm to patch over the growing tension that audiences had begun to sense through the screen. But serenity never showed up that day. What the cameras captured instead was the moment when the family's unspoken cracks finally split wide open. From the first minute, something felt wrong. Dayton, Robyn's eldest son, paced the porch with restless energy, refusing to wear his microphone. His hands trembled. His eyes darted at every movement of the crew. The air around him was tight, buzzing with a kind of invisible electricity. When the cameraman tried to adjust his angle, shifting the shot ever so slightly to include Dayton in the frame, the world erupted. A guttural, almost animal cry tore from Dayton's chest. "You're not filming me anymore," he roared. "She's being poisoned by you, all of us are." In a blur, chaos consumed the garden. The boom mic clattered against a chair. The cameraman stumbled backward into a stone planter. A sharp crack, then a smear of blood against the lens. Robyn screamed, frozen between fear and disbelief. But Kody didn't rush to protect anyone. He stormed forward, his rage not at his son but at the crew. "Why the hell didn't you turn the camera off sooner?" he bellowed, voice shaking with fury. The crew froze, terrified. It was over in seconds, but the damage was eternal. The footage would never air. It was buried that very evening, sealed behind studio doors in Burbank, where TLC executives gathered for an emergency call that would end a reality TV empire. Julia Wright, the show's veteran executive producer, spoke first. Her tone was a blade. "Kody, we're done. We can't keep building a show around your crumbling ego. One of our crew is in the hospital. You've turned this family into a war zone." On the other side of the screen, Kody sat stiff in his Flagstaff home office, surrounded by framed smiles that no longer matched reality. His jaw locked, his face colorless. "This is impossible," he growled, more to himself than to her. "Oh, it's already done," Julia replied coldly. The call ended. The screen went black. Hours later, Robyn found him still in that chair, eyes glassy, staring into nothing. The television played reruns on mute. He wasn't watching. On the desk sat a bottle of whiskey, one that had collected dust for years, half drained now. "They assassinated me," he muttered as she stepped into the room. "They killed my legacy." But Robyn didn't comfort him. She didn't touch him. She stood still, voice calm and low. "No, Kody, you killed it. You turned this family into your battlefield. You broke Dayton. You broke all of us." Kody's voice cracked. "You're turning against me." His body trembled with disbelief. "Robyn, don't you dare." But her decision was already sealed. "Dayton's coming with me," she said. "I'm going to St. George. Don't call. Don't follow. Don't make this part of your redemption story. What's left of this family still deserves peace." Her words were carved in stone. For the first time, Kody's last loyal defender had walked away. He tried pleading. He tried shouting. Nothing reached her. She left that night with her son and a silence that echoed through the empty house like judgment itself. Alone in the darkness, Kody stared at the doorway where she'd stood. Realizing the empire he'd built, brick by brick, episode by episode, had finally collapsed under the weight of his own control. Miles away, Meri Brown was already moving with quiet precision. Unlike the rest, she wasn't shocked by Kody's downfall. She had predicted it. While the family drama unfolded, Meri had been writing carefully, secretly, powerfully. For years, she'd guarded a private memoir, One she now planned to unleash, not as gossip, but as vengeance. Inside it were bank statements, private agreements, hidden production deals, proof that the family's golden narrative had always been scripted deceit. She didn't just want to tell her side. She wanted to expose everyone's. When TLC realized the show's future was collapsing with Kody's exit, they gave Meri something unprecedented, a 6-part confessional series titled Meri Brown, The Real Story. It was shot in a bare studio outside Salt Lake City, just a wooden chair, a single camera, and a table stacked with manila folders marked Robyn's deals. Meri sat facing away from the lens, her voice steady but edged with years of repressed fire. "For years, I let them tell my story," she began. "Now, I'm telling it myself." And then she detonated the first bomb. Since season 8, Robyn Brown had been cutting secret contracts with TLC's side deals, guaranteeing her extra pay for episodes that showcased her tears. Her children, her victims, the other wives never knew. They believed she was simply favored by fans. "I still remember when they cut my entire grief recovery retreat," Meri confessed. "It was the royest moment of my life. But when the episode aired, I was gone. My name wasn't even in the credits." Documents spilled onto the table, proof of shell companies. Real estate transfers signed quietly into Robyn's name. And unpaid invoices that Meri uncovered despite her own contractual gag order. Then she delivered the line that split the fandom in half. Robyn Brown isn't a victim. She's a strategist. And Kody Brown, he was her soldier. The internet exploded. Within hours, clips of Meri's confession dominated TikTok and Reddit. Reaction videos poured in by the thousands. Former fans who had turned away from the show now flooded back, desperate for every unfiltered second. By the second episode, the revelations grew. Darker memes showing Kody begging TLC producers to rewrite storylines in his favor. Voicemails of Robyn pleading for edits that made her look blameless. Audio of Kody berating Christine for ruining the family brand. The world watched in shock as TLC made a stunning pivot. Sister Wives was reborn as Sister Wives, reclaimed. Led not by Kody, but by the wives he'd once controlled. Billboards rose over Times Square, showing Meri alone, hair whipping through desert wind, arms folded, chin lifted. Across the image in bold white text, the real wife, Meri Brown. She's done waiting. And Kody, he vanished. His once noisy Flagstaff home stood silent. The driveway empty of production vans, the windows dark. Neighbors whispered of seeing him at rural gas stations, unshaven, muttering to himself. He tried launching a podcast. It collapsed after 3 episodes. He tried YouTube. Comments were disabled within a day. Meanwhile, Robyn ignored every call from reporters. Dayton entered therapy quietly and privately. While online rumors spoke of sealed court records and buried footage from the family's Las Vegas years, a former producer hinted at unreleased tapes, recordings of Kody making chilling comments about dominance and control, allegedly bought out by TLC for 6 figures. But by then, it was too late. The damage was already global. From that one family lunch, the Brown legacy disintegrated piece by piece. The crew's trauma, Robyn's exposure, Meri's confessional combined into one unstoppable downfall. Kody Brown had once branded himself as the patriarch of a modern plural family. Now, he was a man exiled from his own creation, his empire of faith. Fame and family turned into nothing more than televised rubble. From the ashes of Kody's collapse, the women he silenced rose like fire, no longer background characters in his empire, but architects of their own redemption. When the headlines hit Kody Brown terminated from TLC, was Meri who moved first. The years of repression had refined her anger into something surgical, precise. She wasn't out for chaos. She was out for justice. Every word she spoke in her confessional series carried the weight of a woman who had spent decades being rewritten, recast, and reduced to the bitter wife. But as she stared into that studio camera, she wasn't bitter. She was reborn. "I stayed quiet because I thought silence was survival," she said, voice steady. But silence was just another cage. Her confessions shattered whatever illusion the audience had left. Behind the scenes payoffs. Robyn's selective favoritism. Kody's manipulation of contracts to keep control of the narrative. For years, fans had speculated that Sister Wives wasn't just reality television, it was reality edited to fit Kody's ego. Meri confirmed every suspicion piece by piece. And when the footage aired, something extraordinary happened. People started believing in her again. The woman they once mocked became the woman they now cheered for. Meri wasn't done. She didn't want pity, she wanted power. The production team, desperate to revive their crumbling franchise, granted her creative control over her story. Her segments became cinematic, raw, and deeply human. They showed her walking through old homes now empty, touching door frames where family laughter used to echo. Revisiting places where she'd once smiled through pain. "I built this life believing loyalty would save it. Gosh," she said softly in one scene, standing before the wreckage of her old property. It didn't, but truth might. Meanwhile, as Meri's story gained traction, Janelle Brown Long labeled the quiet, pragmatic one was rewriting her own chapter hundreds of miles away. For years, she had been the stabilizer, the thinker, the one who held everything together while chaos brewed around her. She had loved without praise, worked without credit, and endured without complaint. But in the wake of Kody's public downfall, she decided survival was no longer enough. She wanted sovereignty. Janelle's transformation wasn't loud, it was deliberate. The turning point had come years earlier. During the COVID lockdowns, when Kody's restrictive house rules drove wedges through the family, he accused Janelle's sons of disobedience, her daughters of disrespect. He spoke of loyalty, but lived hypocrisy. By 2021, Janelle had reached her breaking point. She followed Christine's lead and quietly began disentangling her life from his. She didn't announce it, she didn't dramatize it, she acted. When she finally confirmed her separation, fans expected tears. They got triumph instead. "Sometimes," she said in a quiet social media post, "freedom doesn't come with applause. It comes with peace." And with that peace, Janelle began to build literally. In 2024, she bought property near her daughter in North Carolina. No camera crew, no contracts, just her open land and a plan. "My home is slowly coming to fruition," she told followers in a rare update. Eyes bright with something that had been missing for years: joy. Her announcement was more than just a life update. It was a declaration. The woman once confined to Kody's system was now her own architect. Every foundation she poured, every wall she raised, symbolized the dismantling of the old order. TLC cameras captured fragments of this rebirth for Sister Wives, reclaimed. The image of Janelle standing on her raw, half-built property whined, sweeping her hair as she looked out over her land, became an emblem of the new era. The caption read simply, "She built more than a home. She built herself." But where Meri and Janelle were rising, Robyn was unraveling. Once the soft-spoken favorite, she now found herself exposed, her tears no longer selling sympathy but suspicion. The public had turned. Every sigh, every scene where she wept for the broken family was dissected online as manipulation. She had spent years portraying herself as the heart of compassion, but compassion doesn't survive lies. And her pattern of secrecy had finally caught up with her. Behind closed doors, Robyn was drowning in her own narrative. Her marriage to Kody, once the symbol of her victory, had become a haunting. They lived surrounded by ghosts of what used to be photographs of family dinners, souvenirs from road trips with wives who no longer spoke to them. Silence hung heavier than conversation. Even when they filmed occasional segments for closure specials, their chemistry felt forced, brittle. The laughter was gone. The love looked rehearsed. While Kody battled obscurity, Robyn's world shrank. She stopped attending TLC events. Her once active social media pages went dormant. The comments had grown vicious, calling her the orchestrator of the Brown downfall. Every rumor, every whispered story about secret contracts and manipulative deals eroded the sympathy she once commanded. What she saw as love had turned into a mirror, reflecting the cost of everything she'd claimed to want. Meanwhile, Meri's memoir, released under the title Breaking Faith, The Woman Behind the Curtain, hit the bestseller lists within days. It wasn't a revenge piece, it was a reckoning. Page after page unveiled the machinery behind the family brand. It revealed how production edits erased the wife's pain, how emotional breakdowns were staged for ratings, and how Robyn's tears had become a bargaining chip for network bonuses. Every chapter read like confession and indictment rolled into one. TLC didn't just air the scandal, they monetized it. Sister Wives Reclaimed became the network's most watched revival since 90 Day Fiancé. The format was raw, unscripted, unapologetic. Each wife had her own spotlight. Meri's strength, Janelle's independence, Christine's grace. Together, they represented what the audience had always wanted: authenticity, not choreography. Kody was nowhere to be found. Reports placed him in rural Arizona, unshaven, wearing worn-out jackets, occasionally recognized at small gas stations. He was no longer the confident patriarch preaching leadership and divine destiny. He was a man haunted by the silence of his own making. His downfall had been televised, dissected, and now forgotten. And yet, the wives he'd underestimated were now thriving on screen and off. Janelle's businesses, from organic farming to her custom apparel line, began generating steady revenue. Christine's cooking and lifestyle brand took off, buoyed by fan support. Meri launched retreats focused on healing and empowerment for women who had lived in controlling relationships. The world no longer saw them as the sister wives. They were individuals, each carrying scars, but none defined by them. Through all of this, Robyn's decline grew painfully visible. Once defended as the emotional heart of the family, she now appeared in public less and less. Reports surfaced of her moving to St. George with Dayton, living a quiet, withdrawn life. Her tears had lost their audience. Without the show, without the spotlight, she had to face something she'd avoided for years. The reality that her relationship with Kody had never been about love alone. It was about survival in a story that was no longer hers to tell. For years, Kody and Robyn had believed they were untouchable. They had the cameras, the contracts, the control. But as the light shifted and the narrative turned, the truth became undeniable. Control doesn't build legacies. Truth does. And the truth had finally caught up to them. By the end of 2025, Sister Wives Reclaimed wasn't just a show. It was a cultural reckoning. It asked a question millions of fans had quietly wondered for years. What happens when the man who built a family on faith loses faith in himself? And the answer came not from him, but from the women he underestimated. They rose, they rebuilt. And for the first time, they didn't need Kody Brown to tell their story. They didn't need Kody Brown to tell their story. Every empire falls, but few fall so publicly, so poetically, and so deservedly as the empire of Kody and Robyn Brown. By the time the dust settled, the world that Kody and Robyn had built around cameras, contracts, and control had disintegrated. What once looked like divine destiny was now a hollow performance. The grand houses, the carefully staged dinners, the tears that once drew millions of viewers, all of it faded into silence. Kody, who had once demanded obedience in the name of faith, found himself living in quiet exile, the echo of his own words chasing him through empty hallways. He had mistaken attention for love, control for leadership, and obedience for devotion. And when the camera stopped rolling, what was left was nothing but truth. And truth is merciless. In the months after TLC severed ties, Robyn's world shrank even further. She clung to the fragments of a life that no longer existed, replaying scenes from the show as if searching for a time when she had been loved instead of tolerated. Her home, once the centerpiece of the Brown family image, became a museum of memories, framed photos of children who no longer visited. Mementos from holidays that had ended in tears. She'd told herself for years that her devotion made her different, better. But what she had mistaken for loyalty had really been fear. The fear of being alone, forgotten, irrelevant. The producers, who had once shielded her from criticism, had moved on. TLC pivoted toward the new sister wives, reclaimed Aaron empire reborn through the voices of the women who had survived her and Kody's control. Robyn wasn't part of that narrative. Her last appearance came in a short, somber clip filmed in a nearly empty living room, her eyes swollen from tears. "I just wanted a family," she whispered. But the audience no longer saw innocence. They saw irony. Because while she had wanted a family, what she had helped destroy was far greater than any household it was trust. Kody's decline became tabloid legend. He was spotted occasionally in small towns, unrecognizable except for the hair that fans once mocked, and the haunted look in his eyes. Once the self-proclaimed patriarch of a modern polygamous dream, he was now a man talking to himself at gas stations, arguing with ghosts that only he could hear. Every scandal, every decision, every betrayal had come full circle. He had believed himself untouchable, convinced that God had chosen him to lead. But no divine hand can protect a man from his own pride. Meanwhile, the wives Meri, Janelle, Christine continued to rise, not out of revenge, but resilience. Their bond, once fractured by jealousy and manipulation, evolved into something sacred, shared survival. They no longer needed the same home, the same last name, or the same man to define them. They found purpose in independence and connection in healing. The world, once captivated by their suffering, was now inspired by their strength. Christine's new family life with David Woolley became the soft counterpoint to the chaos that had defined her earlier years. Viewers saw in her something rare peace. She cooked, she laughed, she traveled. The sparkle in her eyes wasn't from production lights anymore, it was from freedom. "I didn't realize how much of myself I had buried just to survive," she said in a follow-up interview. "Now, I'm not surviving anymore. I'm living." Meri took her story further, turning Breaking Faith into a docuseries for streaming audiences. Each episode peeled back another layer of what it meant to rebuild a life from nothing. She interviewed other women who had escaped religious control, offering them platforms to speak. Her project wasn't just a continuation of her story, it was a revolution of empathy. She had gone from being dismissed as the angry wife to becoming a symbol of rebirth for thousands of women who had been told to stay quiet. Janelle, ever the realist, turned her independence into influence. Her business ventures flourished. But it wasn't money she was after, it was meaning. She began mentoring other women in financial independence, helping them build foundations outside patriarchal systems. "Freedom," she said in one viral clip, "starts with your bank account. The rest follows." That line became a mantra, repeated across social media, printed on shirts, quoted in women's empowerment seminars. And in every headline celebrating their triumphs, one truth was constant. Kody Brown was a ghost of the past. By mid-2025, the cultural shift was undeniable. Sister Wives was no longer just a show, it had become a study in power, faith, and consequence. Universities analyzed it in gender and media courses. Journalists cited it as a case study in manipulation and liberation. The wives had transcended the spectacle. Kody and Robyn had become the cautionary tale. But behind all the public perception and polished documentaries, there were still moments of raw emotion. One night, a former producer once close to the Browns shared an unseen clip online. It showed Kody sitting alone on the porch of his Arizona home. The sun was setting, the desert painted gold and crimson. He looked broken, whispering to the camera, "I thought I was building something sacred. I didn't realize I was destroying everything I loved." The clip went viral within hours, not out of sympathy, but reflection. The world had witnessed a man who mistook control for love and paid the ultimate price. Robyn, for her part, disappeared from the public eye altogether. No more interviews, no social media posts, no sightings. The woman who once cried for cameras now cried alone. Rumors claimed she'd moved to Utah to be closer to her older children, seeking quiet redemption. Whether that was true or not didn't matter. What mattered was that the story had completed its circle. By the time the Sister Wives legacy, Special Art AD, the closing chapter of a decade-long saga, the message was unmistakable. It wasn't about polygamy anymore. It wasn't even about fame or family. It was about transformation. The wives who had once been conditioned to share their lives under the shadow of one man had learned to live fully in the light of their own truth. In the final scene of that special, the camera panned over a wide desert valley. The wind moved through tall grass, the sky burning orange. Meri, Janelle, and Christine stood side by side not as co-wives, but as women who had survived the same storm. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their silence was louder than any confession. And then, as the credits rolled, code appeared on the screen, words from Meri's book that summarized everything. He built walls to keep us in. We built wings to get out. The screen faded to black. The legacy of sister wives had ended, but the story of the women who reclaimed their lives had just begun.